This conference will now be recorded.
ॐ शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। Namaste. Now we will see the meaning of the namas in the verse 13 of Shri Vishnu Sahasranama based on Shri Shankara Bhashya. Verse 13 is like this. रुद्रो बहुशिरा बभ्रुर्विश्वयोनिश्शुचिश्रवाः अमृतशाश्वतस्थाणुर्वरारोहो महातपाः. The namas that are present in this verse as per the Shankara Bhashya are 9 in number, and they are like this. Rudraha Bahushiraha Babruhu Vishwayonihi Shuchishravaha Amritaha Shashvatasthanuhu Vararohaha Mahatapaha. Now let us see the meaning of each of this nama. The first one is Rudraha. To this term, we see three interpretations given in the Bhashya. Samharakale prajaha samharan rodayatiti rudraha. During the time of destruction, the one in the process of destruction who makes the people cry, he is Rudra. So rodayati iti Rudraha. Rodana is to cry. Rodayati is to make cry. So in the process of annihilation, those jivatmas who are still bound, who are still considering themselves as bound to this world, so they will not, who have not surrendered to the will of the Bhagavan, so they will still hold on to it, and they would find it difficult to let it go. So when the Bhagavan, in the natural process of cycle of creation and annihilation, in the process of annihilation, when it happens due to the ajnana and the attachment due to it, so prajaha, people, so they cry because of losing things, losing themselves. They consider themselves to be lost in the process of the destruction. Hence, so who cry? It is the ajñas, in the sense those who have not contemplated about their true nature, and those who have not surrendered themselves, they cry. So Rudra, Bhagavan Narayana, in the form of Rudra, make those people cry. So in the sense that to overcome such a situation, right away, it is intended by the Bhashya that everyone look into their true nature and work in the path of the self-realization. This is the first interpretation. The second interpretation is also in the same lines. Rudam rati dadati itiva rodanad ravanadva rudra ityuchyate. So it is the same meaning but using a different root. It's a grammatical technicality. So the one who gives tears, Rudam Rati. Rati means dadati. Dadati means gives. What does he give? Rudam. Rud, crying, tears. So the one who gives tears. So he is Rudra or Rodanath, which means Ravanath. So Ravana means Rauti, Ravayati, Ravana. So the one who makes people cry. So even in Ramayana, that is the when Ravana, the Dashagriva, the 10-headed uh, enemy of Rama. So he is also called Ravana because he is a terrible and makes his enemies cry. So Ravanath, Ravana. So Rudra also makes people cry. So though the it is given as two interpretations, the essential meaning of the two are one and the same. But one difference we can see. So Samhara Kale, the first interpretation says that during the time of Pralaya or the annihilation, so the one who makes people cry in the sense of the Pralaya Kala, it is given specific to Pralaya Kala. The second one is uh, it is not specific to Pralaya Kala. So whenever some difficulty comes, it is also due to our own karma phala, which is uh, dispensed by the Bhagavan. So previously also we saw that phalam ata upapattehe. In explaining one of the namas, we saw that it is the Bhagavan who dispenses the karma phala, be it happiness or the sorrow. So it is our own doing, but it is managed, it is given to us, or it is directed to us through the Bhagavan. So even when the suffering comes, which makes us feel sorrow or makes us cry, so we have to take it as a prasada of Bhagavan. And going further deep into it, Bhagavan on his own does not give, he gives based on our own karma phala. So all these ideas can be thought of by looking at these interpretations. So these are the first two interpretations of the term Rudra. Now let us see the third interpretation given by Acharya for the term Rudra. This is a different approach. Here we see that Ruhu Dukham Dukkha Karanam Va Tadravayati iti va Rudraha. Here we see that Rudra, there are two components here. So Ru, Acharya says, Ru refers to suffering or the cause of suffering, and the one who liquidates, dilutes that is Rudra. So Dra, Ru means suffering or the cause of suffering, affliction or the cause of affliction, and Dra, the second component, Dra means liquidate, dilutes. So the one who removes suffering or the one who removes the cause of suffering. So suffering, dukkha, shoka, all those things are experienced. So what is the cause of suffering? When we go into Yoga Shastra, we see that the kleshas like avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, all these are the ones that are cause of suffering. Avidya, ignorance; asmita, ego; raga, attachment; dvesha is hatred; abhinivesha, fear of death. So all these are the causes, dukkha karanam. And when these are existent, what we undergo is dukkha. So that is the meaning of the term ru. And dravayati, the one who removes, the one who liquidates. When does he liquidate? When does he dilute the suffering and the cause of suffering? When we do surrender to him. We see Patanjali Maharshi saying that Ishvara Pranidhanadva. So by surrendering all our actions, all the results of our action, Bhagavan becomes Rudra. Bhagavan dilutes, liquidates not only our sufferings, also our causes, the causes of suffering like avidya, asmita, etc. So, how come such an interpretation to the term Rudra? For this, Acharya presents uh, a reference from the Puranic literature. रुर्दुःखं दुःखहेतुं वा विद्रावयति स प्रभुः रुद्र इत्युच्यते तस्मात् शिवः परमकारणम् इति लिङ्गपुराणवचनात्. So we see here that from this Puranic lore we see this interpretation being derived by Acharya. So the first term Rudra has thus been given three interpretation, and though Rudra is normally identified or normally we see Bhagavan Shiva, so even that Shiva is none other than Bhagavan Shiva is none other than Narayana himself. So there is no difference between Narayana and Shiva. That is indicated here by the explanations to the term Rudra. Now we move to the second term, Bahushiraha. Bahuni Shiramsi Yasya Saha Bahushiraha. The one who is endowed with innumerable heads. Bahu, Shira are the two components in the word. Bahu means many, innumerable. Shiras means head. So the one who has innumerable, many heads. Again, this means the Virat Swarupa, means all the heads that exist in this creation are his heads. So to this we see Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha from the Rigveda Samhita, from the very famous Purusha Sukta. We see the Purusha, the Virat Purusha, the Paramatman, who is in the form of all the innumerable created beings. All the heads of the created beings are his heads. Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha, Sahasrakshaha, Sahasrapat. All the heads, all the eyes, all the feet that we see in the creation are all belonging to him, are all the form of the same Paramatman. So that Virat Swarupa of Paramatman is celebrated. So to see the existence of Paramatman in his own creation, this term Bahushiraha will help for that anusandhana, for that meditation. The third term is Babhruhu. Bibharti Lokan iti Babhruhu. The one who supports, who holds all the worlds is Babhru. Babhru is derived from the root Bhri, which means to support or to hold. As Vishnu, who has to support, whose role is to support or sustain the creation, the sustainer of the universe is celebrated, glorified by the term Babhruhu. The next term, Vishvayonihi. Vishvasya Karanatvat Vishvayonihi. The one who is the cause of all the worlds or all the people. So all that is existent in the world. He is Vishwayoni. So here we see two components, Vishwa and Yoni. Yoni means the cause. Vishwa. Vishwa means it has two meanings. Vishwa simply means sarva, everything. And Vishwa also means the world. So Vishwayoni will mean the cause of everything or all, the cause of all, or the cause of the universe or the world. So he is Vishwayoni. Previously also the same idea was described or presented by the term Vishwaretaha also. The fifth nama in this verse is Shuchishravaha. Shuchini, Shravamsi, Namani, Shravaniyani, Asya iti Shuchishravaha. The one whose names that are to be heard and are purifying is Shuchishravaha. So here we see two components, Shuchi and Shrava. First, the component Shrava is explained. Shrava means a nama. In its plural, it is a Shravamsi Namani. So Shrava means the names and Shuchi means purifying. So the one whose names are purifying. So in this Vishnu Sahasranama, we are seeing so many names of Bhagavan being presented. So all these names, when we recite them, when we repeat them, when we think about the meaning of it, they purify our mind. They drive away all impurities from the mind, and hence the one whose names are purifying, he is Shuchishravaha. The next one is Amritaha. Na vidyate mritam maranam asya iti Amritaha. The one who does not have death is Amrita. Here in the word we see a Mrita. Mrita is explained by Acharya as Marana, death. A is Navidyate. So the one who is deathless, the one who is eternal, he is Amrita. Bhagavan is Amrita. Lord Narayana is Amrita, eternal. For this, in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is a reference Ajaro Amaraha iti Shrutehe. So Bhagavan Narayana, again the Paramatman, is celebrated in the Upanishads as Ajaraha, Amaraha. Ajaraha means the one who does not have aging. Jara is aging. Ajaraha, Amaraha, the one who does not have death, the one who does not age, the one who does not die. He is Paramatman Narayana. The seventh verse is Shashvatasthanu. Shashvatascha asau sthanushcheti Shashvatasthanu. The one who is eternal and also firm, steady. He is Shashvatasthanu. So again we see two components, Shashvata and Sthanu. Shashvata means eternal, just now we saw in the previous nama, he is Amaraha, who does not have death. So Shashvata, the deathless. And Sthanu means who is steady, who we see that in the context that when something ages, it uh, it withers away with aging. So even in human life, we see that with aging, there sets in instability. But Paramatman is eternal. He is since time immemorial, and there is no death for him. So he is an ancient entity, but because of him being ancient, it does not mean that he is unstable. Unlike the human experience, with aging comes instability, but in the case of Paramatman, so though he is since existing, since time immemorial, and there is no end to his existence, still he is going to be sthanu, sthiratara, steady, sthiratvat sthanuhu. In the fourth verse, sarvaha, sharvaha, sthiraha, sthanuhu. In that context also, we saw the meaning that sthanu means the one who is steady. The eighth term in this verse is Vararohaha. Varaha Arohaha Ankaha Asya iti Vararohaha. So the meaning of this is the one who has a very fine lap. So he is Vararoha. Here we see two components, Vara Aroha. Aroha means the lap or the thigh. So what is the meaning? How is Aroha means the thigh? Arohana in general language we know that is to climb. So to climb or to ascend something, we need very strong thighs. So the word Aroha indicates the thigh or the lap which exists to help us ascend. So Aroha means the lap, and Varaha Arohaha, the best, the very fine lap or the thigh region, the one who has it. He is Vararohaha. Why is the lap of Bhagavan called as very fine lap? Because we see both in the Narasimhavatara, he gives a place to his bhakta, like Prahalada, or later in the other avatara or in the other Puranic context, we see Dhruva are placed in the lap. He gives a position to his fine devotees in his own lap. So his lap is very fine because it is a place reserved for very great devotees, and hence he is called as Bhagavan is called as Vararoha. The glory of the Lord is through his bhaktas. So that is demonstrated by this interpretation Vararoha. Then again there is a second interpretation, Varam Arohanam Yasmin Itiva Arudhanam Punaravritya Sambhavat. The ascension into whom, to whose state is very blessed, because those who ascend to his state never come back. Now, Here, this is a different idea. Arohana means ascension. So the bhaktas or the yogis or the sadhakas or the mumukshus, they ascend. Where do they ascend? They ascend towards the Bhagavan, towards Sayujyam, Salokyam, and Sarupyam. They refine themselves and they gradually ascend towards the loka of Bhagavan. So, that ascension towards or into the state of the Lord is Vara, great. So, Vara Arohana means the one, the ascension into whom he is great. He is Vararoha. Why is ascending to the state of Bhagavan is great? Because that is explained. Arudhanam punaravritya sambhavat. Those who ascend to the state of God consciousness, they do not come back. They do not fall again into this vicious circle of birth and death. They never again undergo the cycle of punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Hence, that ascension into God consciousness or the state of divinity or the salokya of Bhagavan Narayana, that arohanam is vara, is great, the one to be desired, to be achieved. So this is the second interpretation to the term vararoha. So towards explaining the meaning of the term vara, that is the one who reaches the God consciousness, the one who attains the Salokya, Samipya of Lord Narayana, who does not come back. Towards that, Acharya quotes from the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. Nasa punaravartate iti shrutehe. In Chandogya, it says that the one who attains the feet of the Lord does not come back again. Again, in the Bhagavad Gita 18th chapter, we see yam prapya na nivartante. So the one on reaching whom the bhaktas don't fall again into this worldly cycle. So that is the state of the Paramatman, which is indicated by the term Vararoha. The ninth term in this verse is Mahatapaha. Mahat Srijya Vishayam Tapaha Jnanam Asya Iti Mahatapaha. The one who is endowed with great knowledge about the things to be created. He is Mahatapaha. So we see the term Mahatapaha has two components, Mahat and Tapas. So what is tapas? Tapas in this context means knowledge. So what kind of knowledge? Knowledge about what? Knowledge about the things to be created. So in the beginning of the creation, the Paramatman has this tapas. Tapas here means knowledge. Knowledge about what? The things which are going to be, which are to be created. And what, how, what is the nature of that knowledge? That knowledge is great. So all things that are going to emerge, all that is there within the Paramatman, and hence it is Mahat, it is great. So the pre-existence of all the knowledge of things that are going to emerge or in the form of seed, knowledge seed within the Paramatman, and that is the greatness. So one who is the repository of knowledge about all the beings that is going to emerge is Mahatapaha. How can the term tapas be described as knowledge? Acharya quotes the Mundaka Upanishad that equates tapas to jnana. Yasya jnanamayam tapaha. So the tapas of Paramatman is jnanamaya, is full of knowledge. Full of knowledge of what? Knowledge of all that is going to emerge from him. So such Paramatman is called as Mahatapaha. There is a second interpretation to the term Mahatapaha. Aishwaryam Pratapahava Tapaha Mahat Asya Itiva Mahatapaha. So here again the word tapaha is given a different meaning. Tapaha is Aishwaryam. Aishwaryam refers to the powers, and pratapaha is valor. So tapas refers to powers or valor, and the one who is endowed with great powers or valor is called as Mahatapaha. So tapas is Aishwaryam or Pratapa, and Mahat is great. So Paramatman is described as the one who is endowed with great powers, or the one who is endowed with great valor. So previously also in the context of explaining the term Vikrami, Vikramaha, Shauryam, the one who has great valor in vanquishing all powerful evils. So he is called as Vikrami in that context. The same idea is explained through the second interpretation as Pratapa. So the one who has great powers, the one who has great valor, and the one who is endowed with great knowledge, going by the first interpretation. So he is Mahatapaha. So thus in this 13th verse, with these 9 namas, the tally of the number of namas that we have seen thus far has reached 123. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishnarpanamastu.